The SpongeBob you grew up with isn't the same SpongeBob that aired in other countries. SpongeBob is one of the most globally recognized cartoons ever made.
Grip on the thing. Now don't move it till I say.
It airs in over 170 countries and has been translated into dozens of languages. But what most people don't know is that different countries got different versions of the same episodes.
Man, how'd you grow that?
Scenes were cut, dialogue was changed, entire jokes were replaced, and some of these censored versions, they completely changed the meaning of the show. When SpongeBob went international in the early 2000s, Nickelodeon had to navigate a massive problem: cultural differences. What's acceptable in the United States isn't acceptable everywhere. Humor that works in one country can be offensive in another. References American kids understand mean nothing to kids in Japan, Germany, or the Middle East. So Nickelodeon didn't just translate SpongeBob, they localized it.
Untrimmed lows are only moderately untrimmed.
Different regions got different edits, different voice actors with different tones, different music, different sound effects, even different animation in some cases. The goal was to make SpongeBob feel like it belonged in every country. But in doing so, they created dozens of alternate versions of the same show. And some of those versions were heavily censored, not because of violence, not because of language, but because of cultural sensitivities American audiences never even thought about. Let's start with the most extreme example: the Middle East. In several Middle Eastern countries, SpongeBob episodes were edited to remove anything that could be seen as culturally or religiously inappropriate.
Ow! SpongeBob! I told you not to move it!
In the episode Ripped Pants, Season 1, Episode 2,
Give it a try, Sam.
there's a scene at Goo Lagoon where SpongeBob pretends to drown to get attention. Lifeguards rush over. Everyone panics. Then SpongeBob reveals he was faking, and his pants ripped. In the US version, this scene is played for laughs. It's harmless slapstick. But in some Middle Eastern broadcasts, the entire beach scene was cut. Why? Because Goo Lagoon shows characters in swimsuits, and in some countries, showing animated characters in revealing clothing,
SpongeBob! Sandy!
even cartoon sea creatures, was considered inappropriate for children's television. So, the episode was edited down. Scenes were removed. The story was restructured to skip over anything involving the beach. The result? The episode barely made sense, but it aired anyway. Then there's Germany. In the episode Sailor Mouth, the one where SpongeBob and Patrick learn a bad word,
The guy you work for?
Nuh-uh, not that word. That word.
the German dub completely changed the joke. In the US version, the dolphin sound is used to censor swearing. The joke is obvious. But in Germany, censoring language on kids' TV is taken extremely seriously. So instead of keeping the dolphin sound, the German dub replaced it with a completely different word.
Pretty good, SpongeBob.
A made-up, nonsensical word that sounds silly, but isn't actually a swear. The entire premise of the episode, that SpongeBob and Patrick are saying something they shouldn't, was removed.
Sirs.
Sentence enhanced.
It became an episode about kids using a weird-sounding word. Not a bad one. The moral of the episode stayed the same, but the joke completely gutted. And then there's the most shocking example. House Fancy. Season 6, Episode 1. The episode is about Squidward competing with his rival Squilliam to have the fanciest house featured on a TV show. Near the end of the episode, Squidward is moving a couch. SpongeBob is helping, but he's stuck underneath. As they move the couch, SpongeBob's toenail gets caught on a nail sticking out of the floor. What happens next is brutal. The toenail is ripped completely off. The camera shows it in graphic detail. Blood, exposed flesh, SpongeBob screaming in agony. The animation is disturbingly realistic for a SpongeBob episode. In the United States, this scene aired uncensored. It became infamous among fans for being one of the most visceral moments in the entire series.
Oh.
But internationally, different story. In the UK, The scene was heavily edited. The close-up of the toenail being ripped off was cut. The blood was removed. The audio of SpongeBob's scream was toned down. In Germany, the entire sequence was shortened. The build-up was kept, but the actual moment of injury was almost completely removed. In several other European countries, the scene was either cut entirely or shown from a different angle to obscure the gore. Why? Because even though SpongeBob is a cartoon, the toenail scene crossed a line for international broadcasters. It was too graphic, too realistic, too disturbing for young children. The US version let it air because it technically wasn't blood. It was animated injury in a cartoon context. But other countries weren't willing to take that risk. Nickelodeon knew these edits were happening. In fact, they encouraged them. When SpongeBob was sold to international broadcasters, on the air in as many countries as possible, even if that meant the show looked different everywhere, and for years, this wasn't widely known. American fans had no idea their version of SpongeBob was different from what aired in Europe, Asia, or the Middle East. International fans didn't know the US version had scenes they'd never seen.
Hello?
It wasn't until the internet allowed fans to compare notes that people started realizing the extent of the censorship. Forums exploded. Fans uploaded side-by-side comparisons. YouTube videos showing international edits went viral. And Nickelodeon? They stayed quiet. No official statements, no explanations. Just regional differences handled behind closed doors. Today, international SpongeBob censorship is well documented. Wikis dedicated to SpongeBob edits catalog every known regional difference. Fans have compiled lists of which countries cut which scenes. Some episodes have dozens of alternate versions depending on where you lived.
Life ain't all it's cracked up to be.
And the differences aren't just about censorship. Some countries added jokes that don't exist in the US version. In the Latin American Spanish dub, voice actors were given freedom to improvise. Lines were rewritten to include local slang and humor.
Mysticus like us should not stain our lips with cursing.
Some fans argue the Latin American version is funnier than the English original. In Italy, SpongeBob's laugh was changed. The voice actor gave him a more exaggerated theatrical laugh that became iconic in Italy, but sounds completely different from the US version.
Hi, Ivan.
And in France, character names were changed. Squidward became Carlo. Patrick stayed Patrick. Mr. Krabs became Monsieur Krabs. These weren't just translations, they were adaptations. And in some cases, they created entirely new cultural interpretations of the show. But the censored versions, those are the ones that stand out. Because when you watch a SpongeBob episode with scenes missing, you notice. The pacing feels off. The jokes don't land. The story has gaps. And once you know what was cut, you can't unsee it. SpongeBob isn't the only cartoon with international censorship. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball Z. Tons of anime were heavily edited for Western audiences. The Simpsons has been censored in dozens of countries. Even Disney movies get altered depending on the region. But SpongeBob is unique because the censorship goes both ways. The US version has been censored for international markets. But international versions have also been censored for the US when they included content Americans found inappropriate. It's a reminder that appropriate is subjective. What's fine in one culture is offensive in another. And global media companies have to navigate that constantly. The problem is consistency. When every country gets a different version, which one is the real SpongeBob? Is it the US original? The version with the most content? Or is it the version you grew up with? Even if scenes were missing, there's no right answer, but it proves something important. SpongeBob, like all global media, isn't just a show. It's a cultural product, shaped by the place you watched it. Some countries never saw the full version of SpongeBob, and some of those missing scenes were cut for reasons you'd never expect. But there's one episode that was banned in multiple countries for the exact same reason.
I would like to announce that.
And when you hear what it is, you'll understand why.